What is up, you guys? This is HTJ Halloween, and today we have a super exciting, highly anticipated video about Spirit Halloween 2022. As a lot of you guys probably know, and maybe some of you don't by now, that the Spirit Halloween themes and basically most of the props have been leaked. So it's actually kind of disappointing, and I'll get into that in a bit, that Spirit seems to be unable to avoid these leaks, and they're not able to release things on their own schedule. That is disappointing, but nonetheless, we do have the pictures of the themes, which I'm assuming an employee has been taking at the store. And so before Spirit has even actually released any sneak peeks or anything really at all this year, other than a couple teasers, we have seen what everything looks like. So I'm going to break it all down here, but I did just want to say how I do feel like Spirit has been a little bit disappointing with their rollouts in previous years. 2021 was a bit of a downhill climb, and then now I think this is even worse this year with their rollout, with the teasers being pretty underwhelming, and then everything just getting leaked, and then even Spirit themselves just deciding to release everything all in one day. I feel like that's so underwhelming and so unengaging. It kind of makes the whole thing feel a little bit flat, like just not as exciting, not as much of a build up to everything when you get everything at once. But even then, they're not even releasing this stuff on their own schedule because their own employees are leaking it. So they really need to get their shit together. Like, obviously they should know that this is going to be an unavoidable thing when you start setting up stores before they even release the stuff. So why don't they just start releasing stuff in like June? Get people excited in June, and then by July, people will be setting up the store, so you already know what it looks like. Like, why are they just waiting for things to get leaked? I don't get it. I don't think it's a good marketing move whatsoever. But we're just going to talk about the pictures that we do have nonetheless. And obviously, I don't blame the people that are doing the leaks. I mean, that is what it is. If you're setting up a store, I'm sure you're going to be so excited that you want to take pictures. I feel like Spirit should just know and have done the due diligence to realize if they start sending out the themes to be set up, people are going to see it. I mean, that's just common sense. So I don't understand why they allow this to happen instead of doing the release on their own schedule. But nonetheless, this is an image of a section of the front theme. Now, the front theme I wasn't able to find as clear of pictures of, but what I basically can tell about it is that this right here is like the back of the front theme, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it kind of seems like this is like the very back of the front theme, and then there's going to be like another walkway in front of this section that you actually walk through, although we may be looking at it from a different angle. I might be looking at it from the wrong angle, but there is kind of a similar like redesign to what we had in 2020 and 2021 with the front theme, where there is like a walk-through section. But I think this may be what you get to when you go to the very end, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And so at first glance, I was like, oh, are they doing a castle theme? I mean, that's a total like 180, not expected, and I thought that would have been really cool. But it looks like, and I'll show you some other pictures where we see evidence of this, that it's actually not supposed to be a castle, it's supposed to be a lab. So the people that were predicting a lab theme were correct. It ended up being a lab theme. But it kind of has this old-timey medieval castle look to it, and I actually really like it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the themes I actually think are pretty good. I've been waiting for them to kind of go back to doing something classically scary and in nature, and I feel like the castle type of thing, even though it's not a castle, is actually really cool. They haven't really done something quite like this in a long time. So obviously, as you can see, Grimm is returning, but people are saying they made him worse. I'm not exactly sure what alterations they did for the 2022 version, but I personally never cared for him in the first place. I'm sure he sold well because he's a family-friendly skeleton, but why do we have a skeleton? I just don't. I'm underwhelmed with the skeleton, so I don't even really care about what they did to him. I didn't even buy him last year because I just felt like he was so boring, but that's just my opinion. So this is another image that I think kind of explains what I was trying to say, where you can see that there's this walk-through element. So I actually think I was probably wrong. We were probably looking at it from another angle in that other picture, like one of the sides of the theme, because this looks like the walk-through tunnel goes all the way back. So there is kind of like a walk-through thing that goes into whatever that little castle section is, which is kind of cool. It looks like it's going to have kind of this own little like hexagonal shape that you walk through, which I like. And then it has like the sides. It really looks like a castle to me. But you can see that the sign that goes over your head says Dr. J Reaper. So obviously that's for Jack the Reaper, which is their logo guy. And this is all kind of a lab theme. Now I'll show you guys the back theme once I'm done talking about this image. But what it does seem like is that they've kind of moved into this idea of doing cohesive theming. So the back and the front themes pretty much have the same design. I think that's kind of lazy personally. They used to make them different, and I liked the fact they were different. Nowadays, it seems like we kind of get the same thing. I mean, we have the factory, which was like the same design for the front and the back as far as the like look of it and the cardboard like design. And then this one's the same too. It's got like a castle look for both of them, but they're both supposed to be a lab. So it's all kind of cohesive, which I don't hate that. I just think it'd be more interesting to see two different things. That's just my personal opinion. But this here, I'm not exactly sure what this is going to be called. I know that the teaser is called Experiment 1031, obviously for October 31st. I have a feeling maybe this front theme is going to be called Experiment 1031 because I know the back one is like something lab or whatever. And then we also see one cool prop in this image, and I actually do think this is going to be one of the better ones of the year. We'll get into the prop lineup in a later video, but that has been one of the majorly disappointing elements of this season thus far with the leaks that we've seen. But this giant pumpkin guy actually looks like he might be kind of cool. It looks to me like he has straw for feet. And then he has big pumpkin hands with talons and stuff. And then it looks like he has a pretty cool pumpkin face. So we're going to have to see what that looks like up close in the pictures and in person. But he looks like he has a pretty menacing pumpkin grin. And he pretty much looks like he's going to be a reskin of Crouchy to me, which I actually like because I really liked Crouchy. And you know, I really like the pumpkin props. Those are one of my favorites aside from the Possessed Girls. I do like the pumpkin patch type of props. And I really liked the pumpkin patch Prowler, although I wished he was bigger. So this is almost kind of giving us that because I do think this is probably going to be Crouchy's size in pumpkin form, and I don't hate that at all. I actually think that's probably going to be one of the better props of the season. Unfortunately, maybe even the best based on the rest of the lineup, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so this actually looks like a pretty cool front theme. I mean, pretty generic, but I don't hate it at all. I wanted them to go back to something a bit more creepy, so I like this kind of castle aesthetic. I know I keep saying castle, even though it's not a castle, but it really does kind of feel like that. I like it. I like the aesthetic of it, going back to a more grungy, dark Halloween feel. So this here is a picture of the back theme in the process of being set up. I'm not sure what store this is located at, but clearly this is a pretty large store. Maybe the same store that this person keeps taking these pictures out, which is pretty ballsy, because I know when I took pictures of things and posted them on Instagram, my ass got written up, and all I did was take a picture of those sheets that get taped onto the pegboard, which was literally just showing like costumes, and I got written up, could have lost my job. So this person's pretty ballsy, but this is a great picture here. This is the image of the back theme, and this one is a little less exciting to me than the front theme. Now, I'll show you guys, there's actually a picture that's out now of it like all done. It's like, you know, the whole thing set up completely, so really Spirit just totally missed the mark. Everything has been fully leaked. We know exactly what it looks like, which is kind of sad without them doing any sort of promotion on their own. But this is what it looks like in the middle of being set up, and as you can see, it has a very similar layout to the factory, which I didn't love the layout of the factory, so I'm not loving that they are continuing to do that. I feel like it's very simple, but I don't hate it, and I actually think I like this better than the factory floor. It's got a little bit of an interesting thing with this wooden platforms going on in the front. I don't know. Now, when we get to the other picture, it's pretty clear that you can't walk through any of this that we're seeing here because there's props everywhere, but I think there may be a walkthrough element behind the castle door. It's not a castle. It just really looks like a castle, guys. That's another thing I was going to say. I don't really understand why it looks so much like a castle when it's supposed to be a lab. I don't really care because I love the fact that it looks like a castle. I think it's cooler than if they did something more along the lines of Area 31, which looked cheesy. So I don't hate that. I just don't think it really looks like a lab, in my personal opinion. But we can see that there's two windows in the middle where they've been doing like their little screen things. I don't love those. I don't hate those. I think they are a little bit tacky. They're kind of cool though. They're kind of cool and modern, definitely like a more modern element. And it looks like that is clearly where you see the lab, because in those windows there's like lab looking stuff, but like the rest of the building does not look like a lab, but whatever. I digress. We have these different kind of like platforms, wooden platforms in the front. Once again, super makes it look like a castle. It's like a drawbridge in the front. I mean, I just don't know if maybe they were trying to do a castle and they're like, oh, let's just smack the lab idea over it. Because this, I mean, it looks like a castle. Like, I can't lie. But we have these two sides on the left and the right. It's a weird shape going on here. I'm not really exactly sure what exactly is going on with the little platforms in the front because they're kind of random. But we'll go ahead and look at the finished image right here. And yeah, as you can see, now actually, guys, I take it back. It kind of looks like in this photo that you can walk under, like in between those front platforms and the castle wall. the lab wall. As you can see on it, it says testing lab. So this back theme is once again along the lines of the lab. So it's kind of all, you know, cohesive, same looking cobblestone design, which I do think looks cool. I do like it. I truthfully like the theme itself. But this one is a little awkward compared to the front one. This one is a little awkward as far as like what's going on with these little triangular, platforms. I don't know if this is a fully set up image. It looks like it is though. And why do we just have these like posts, these beams sticking up? Is that a fence? What is going on there? So that's part of it I don't really understand. But I mean, in this image, I can't tell if the Reagan, so we have Reagan on the far right, which is one of the props I think I will be getting because she's definitely going to be cool. And I never got the chance to get her back in the day. And then we have one of the big clowns on the left that I think is going to end up being goofy, but we'll talk about that. I can't tell if those are forward enough that you can actually like walk in between them and the wall, or what that's going to be. Or if there's going to be another walk-in thing behind the wall itself, I don't know. I also like the element of the two like things it has on top of the little pillars, like I mean on top of the roof of this building. It has these like two things that are like look like Tesla towers almost. There's also two very interesting like blue streaks of light that almost look like lightsaber type of things, but they're definitely supposed to be some sort of like cool illuminated thing on the wall, which is cool. So yeah, so they did go with the lab theme, obviously. For all of you that were predicting a lab, that is correct, but it definitely is more of a like medieval times looking lab. It's not like a modern lab, which like I said, I'm glad they did that because I think it gives it a more grunge, dark look, and ended up not being cheesy. But you know, so the themes, I wouldn't say they're groundbreaking, but I actually personally like them better than last year. I think a lot of people may disagree with me, and I may change my mind in person, but I didn't love the factory. I just felt a little underwhelmed by it. I don't know why. I think these themes look more along the lines of Halloween. I really do. I do wish they'd go back to even more classic Halloween, like bloody and gory type of things, but I don't think we're ever going to see that from them. I feel like they're headed down this wrong path, and I don't think they're really going to be able to turn the ship around at this point. But I don't think that these themes are bad. I actually think they're pretty mid-tier, better than things that we have seen in the past for sure. Now, the one major thing that I won't touch on extensively until the whole prop lineup comes out, but that is the props. And a lot of people have been really disappointed in the props. I've voiced a lot of my thoughts in my Instagram link down below. And I have to agree with people. The props have been seeming pretty underwhelming, but I'm not going to jump to full conclusions on YouTube in a YouTube video until they release everything, which, by the way, seems like it's going to be July 20th. It's going to be their big releasing everything date. So once again, disappointed we're not getting sneak peeks, but it is what it is. I'll just make a big video then. But in this image, we see some of the props, so I'll talk about that briefly. We do see Mr. Dark, who I definitely liked, so I'm glad he's returning. Reagan on the far right is actually pretty cool, but kind of random in this theme. Like, wasn't anticipating that, but she'll definitely be cool. Probably will get her. Then the little pink girl, I don't know. She may actually be cool. She's the one that's holding the knife and was talking about mommy's favorite, so she may actually be kind of cool. Now, everything on the left I can't really make out fully, but I know that there's this like barrel of a skeleton, which I think is in the center left there, and that is really cheesy based on what I've seen. It's like a skeleton that pops out of a barrel. What is that? And then I think the big clown on the far left is also very cheesy from what I've seen. Lots of very cheesy clowns this year, and I don't know why. What does this at all have to do with clowns? They seem like they're obsessed with the clowns, but they just keep getting worse and worse and worse. At least this year. I mean, Henry Hustle was good, but I didn't really like Harriet Hustle. And then this year, there's just tons of goofy clowns. They look like Party City clown spirit. What is going on? But speaking of Party City, who I have been quick to shit on in the past, their lineup looks insane. I haven't been able to find the pictures that people are finding to put together my own video, but I may or may not do that. One thing I can guarantee, though, is that I'm going to be ordering some of those props. They have this possessed girl that shakes and pops up. They have a really cool, like, popcorn animatronic clown. They have some really creepy looking clowns. There's a rabid raccoon, like all sorts of creative, unique ideas that are just lacking its spirit. But once again, I just wanted to end this video off about mainly the themes. I do like the themes. I don't hate them at all. I actually think they're a step up from last year in my personal opinion, but I think that we're going to be very disappointed in the lineup. I will come back and address that once it is fully released and we can get the clear website pictures. And I do think I'm going to be purchasing less from Spirit this year. As far as what you can expect expect on the channel. I don't think I'm going to be purchasing many from Spirit because they just don't look great. So really, I think you can expect me to purchase about 3 or 4 of the best from Spirit, and the rest may just be from Party City and Home Depot. But until then, stay tuned and stay subscribed. I will see you guys in the next video.